Thank you for the ability to speak, and thank you also for the big hopes put into my speech. Now, actually, I wanted to start exactly the same note that I'm not, as a German, not one of representative of those nations whose diplomats at the time forged the Sykes-Picot order. But again, and therefore I don't have to defend it, but again, I think I would like to question the basic assumption of this panel, namely that the Sykes-Picot order is the most responsible factor for the trouble we see in the Middle East. And I had two angles from which I would like to question this assumption. And one angle is exactly what Mr. Dwala at the end of its presentation mentioned, namely a closer look at Turkey. Because when you look at the brochure, at the booklet of this conference, there Turkey is mentioned as the one example of Sykes-Picot, but when you, and in fact, Turkey was able to draw its own borders due to its successful war of interdependence. But when we look at the fate of minorities, when we look at the capability of Turkey to manage its majority and minority question, then we see not a fundamental or not a qualitative difference. When we look at the fate of the Greeks who had to leave 1950, when we look at the events in Thrace, the Jews were expelled from Thrace. When we look at the Kurdish uprisings in the 13th, and now we have 35 years of violent quarrel, war, terrorism, you name it, with the PKK, and therefore I see no fundamental difference in the capability of Turkey to deal with its majority problems, disregarding the progress Dwala Odin also mentioned. My second point, and therefore I go a little bit slower maybe, comes question this basic assumption looking into a wider region and not only to the Middle East. We see that the decay of the Ottoman Empire spawned a variety of different attempts to solve the task of integrating a cultural heterogeneous people while at the same time establishing a modern political system. These efforts include structures like the former Yugoslavia, with federated states based on particular lingual and religious identities. Then we see unitary nation states intolerant in ethnic and religious terms, such as Turkey, Bulgaria, and Greece. We encounter consociational systems of power sharing, such as the Republic of Lebanon, and later in 1960, the Republic of Cyprus. Additionally, there is even a state based on religious identity, namely Israel. When we now look that as far as the reconciliation of the interest of different ethnic and religious groups is concerned, the merits of all these different strategies to solve the majority-minority tension remains quite limited, disregarding whether they are an outcome of Sykes-Picot, the Sykes-Picot order, an indirect outcome like the states in the Middle East, or if they are not an outcome of the Sykes-Picot order, namely the states in the Balkans. We face the same kind of troubles and of problems. All this demonstrates that most of these countries mentioned still need to open up new channels for political participation, found new models of political representation, and create new common denominators for the majority and the minority part of their society. Thus, the problem for me does not lie with Sykes-Picot, but with creating a religiously and culturally neutral sovereign, and with this culturally and ethnically or lingual neutral citizenship. Now, I think again a question may be asked. Taking Sykes-Picot not as particular borders, but as the intervention of the West as a whole in the Middle East. Therefore, the question may be asked, would political developments in Middle Eastern states have evolved in a smoother fashion if the region would have the opportunity to follow its own political path and the dynamics? I'm not sure. Let us remember that disintegration of the Ottoman Empire as a result of nationalist movements started long before with the independence of Greece and later with the emergence of the Balkan states. The Ottomans' indigenous model for the integration of minorities the millet system, worked well for centuries. It guaranteed the existence and cultural self-rule of non-Muslim minorities for centuries. But the separation of communities does not create a public sphere, the precondition for political processes that serves the peaceful bargaining of conflicts and interests. The Meşrutiyet period of the constitutional Ottoman history was not interrupted by foreign powers, but it was interrupted long before, or years before Sykes-Picot, by the Turkish national movement. So, the millet system secured the existence of minority groups, but only on the costs of their political disempowerment. It crashed in the moment it was transferred into a system based on equal rights of different communities, and therefore of an open political sphere. Sometimes it is argued that remnants of the millet systems have been found in Syria, where under an authoritarian rule that did not allow for political participation, a lot of communities still exist until today. Communities that are itself remnants of the Ottoman Empire, like the Armenian community, like other Christian communities and Jews. And therefore I think that the real problem lies for me in the intrigued relationship between political participation, equal rights, and cultural homogeneity. Because I think when we look at Europe, then we see that the idea of the nation and is strongly, that the idea of democracy is strongly interrelated with the idea of the nation. We know that in traditional societies, a lot of different groups existed with different rights and different status. For example, we had in Europe, we had a three-class election system. People with a lot of votes, people with one vote, people with no votes. And what I think, when I look at the literature of that time, that the idea of political and legal equality had been made meaningful for society with reference to the ethnical and lingual equality. That means, in my country, because we had all been Germans, we should have the same rights and we should be equal and we should all participate in the discussions on the fate of the German nation. And therefore I see an intrigued relation between cultural homogeneity and democracy. And therefore, participatory systems. And therefore I think we have to, and this is true for not only for the Middle East but also for Europe. The speaker before me rightly referred to cultural prejudice against non-Christians, particularly against Muslims, and therefore we have, in a way, to have a second secularization, not only a in my view, not only a secularization of the political system, but also a secularization of our understanding of the citizen, and have to define it really neutral, disregarding its religious, ethnic, or lingual belonging, but because only this is a guarantee for equal participation, for unhindered political rights, and therefore for functioning democracy. Thank you.